Alright, so this is part 4. I'm going to start doing some surfacing on this car. So one trick I like is if you hit escape while the software is open, this menu box will pop up. If you hit smooth head camera, um, that makes it a lot better for recording video. So I thought that was a good tip that you guys might like. So I'm going to resume and we will get back into the car. I'm just going to go through some of my settings and turn some of this stuff back on. Leave all that where it is. Um, a couple things I did get into doing. I'm just going to actually hide this layer. I just cleaned up this front grille a little bit. I went more with the BMW kind of kidneys. Not really BMW. Well, I guess it is. It's a split grill there. So we're just going to keep that. I also added these splitter lines there. Those are just plein air sketch lines put right on the bottom of the rocker, and I adjusted the height of this front lower of the bumper here as well. And the rear, I think I didn't touch anything in the rear. I just turned these taillight lines. I think that's going to be a taillight red, just to distinguish them for now, as well as that shadow layer there. I just drew the outline using the filled surface tool. I just drew that in top view and made the shadow line. That just kind of helps establish the ground plane, especially if I upload this to Sketchfab. There's no real ground shadow in that, um, I guess, application, web app. So this shadow plane helps define the car in plan view. I think helps ground the vehicle as well. So for now, I'm just going to hide that layer and create one called surfaces. You'll notice I actually did delete the layer with the suspension pieces. I don't think I'm going to get them to be visible. So I think that's okay for this right now. I think I'll just stick to surfacing this and showing you guys some of those tools. So I'm just going to lock some of these layers. Actually, I'll unlock the sketch lines because as I'm building surfaces, uh, um, as I build the surfaces, I start to adjust some of these curves and stuff to make sure they hit. Like this one's probably going to be a little low depending where that surface is. So I just go to the curve surface tool and turn precision on, and I use point mode. This kind of surface initial tension. So if you put it all the way up, when you make your surface, let's make this green. You can see it starts out at its highest tension point, or it's the most curvature. Oops. If you lower it down, I try and do it somewhere in there. When it starts out, it's a little less, but depending on the angle of your hands here, uh, you can make uh, that tension more or less. I typically like to do it somewhere in here because I'm doing relatively flatter surfaces. It might help if you start to go negative for somewhere through here or back there, to do that. Also, one other thing I saw in one of my comments is trying to get the smart move to work. So you'll see here, uh, I always thought that your hands needed to be, if you see the two ends of the controllers like that, to get it to work. Um, so it's a little finicky. I think there's a distance they need to be. I've always found that my hands are probably about there, but you can see that they're kind of in line with each other, and they need to be close to an object. They won't do it while you're not near an object. So as I hover over an object, it pops up, and then it'll choose. And then I like to use my right hand there to kind of pick the axis it'll go on. So you can see that pops up. And then when you do it vertically, as you're kind of hovering over an object, then you can start to move it in all those directions. And it's nice to flip the view, to keep your hands in more of a natural position. I thought that was a good tip to show how that works. Um, so just be careful when you're near other objects. You'll see that gray line is kind of an arbitrary angle, that you just want to make sure when you're near other objects, you don't grip and move those things. All right, so let's get started with some surfaces here. I think I'm going to start on the hood. I'll probably just go and make this patch here and make another one through here, because that goes pretty far back. I'm not sure if I want to add a lot of points, but we'll just get into it and see how this turns out. All right. And then I just grip the left trigger, pull the trigger, or right trigger to pull the points, and just go down using those curves as guides. And one more there. And then I go back and edit the surface. You'll see that these points snap. When you have mirror plane on, they snap right to the center there. And then you can see how I notice that that point is a little low. I'm just going to pull it up. Again, with all this stuff, depending how accurate you want to be, you're going to spend more time on this. I think this should be good. I'm just going to follow the trajectory of this curve here, and I'll add another surface on the right there. And I think I can get away with these bigger patches with less points. As you get into more complex stuff, you're going to want to add more rows so you can push down on the right joystick there. Kind of like if you're playing a video game, you're pushing down on, like, what is it, R3 or whatever on PlayStation. That'll add it there, and then you pull the trigger to add the point, and then you can move them. But I'm just going to undo that. And then if you want to add them in this direction across there, you can hover, do a right grip, and trigger, and you can see it added at that point there. So if you needed a little more control over the curvature in that direction, you could do that, which I think I might just keep that where it is. And I'm not too worried about the tangency across here. It doesn't look too bad. This is just to kind of fill in the volume of the surfaces there and give it some kind of color. On this one, I'm just going to come here, and then I'll drag that as far back as I can. You'll notice I accidentally added another row back there, but that's okay. So I'm just going to move these to the center, move these forward a little bit more, and then move these up. If you pay attention to how many kind of rows of CVs you put, you can use that to snap to these ones. I don't typically do that because I try and, or each patch of surface is going to be different, as you're going to see here in a second. Oops, I'm going to add one more in here just so I can get a little better curvature around this. So we're just going to start editing these points a little bit more. And then I try and hide the surfaces, as I explained in my other videos, behind these sketch lines, just to kind of help this out a little. Oops. And this is when you start to notice, if you kind of look down across things or from other angles, you'll see them popping through, or I see that this surface is a little shallow. So it's always good to work with things from a different perspective. There, and I think this one, we're just going to come across like that. That should be good enough. Let's see how far I can get that. You'll see as you start to pull it more, the curvature will change, but we could probably get away with something like that there. And then I'll just do a kind of rougher surface through here to fill in this kind of triangle that comes back here. And that's it there. Then I'll just move that. Looks pretty good. Excuse me. And that looks good. Okay. I think that should work for that. Just going to edit this a little bit more there. So the surfaces go pretty quickly. You just got to get in the groove of pulling them out and working at a scale that you can manage in kind of one stroke. I actually tend to sit down while I'm doing a lot of this stuff, so I just work from my chair. So I work pretty small. You can see how close my hands are together. They're only maybe 5 or 6 inches apart, and I try and that's my maximum reach there. So maybe I don't know, a couple feet for each of my arms, and then you can either work toward yourself or away from yourself, depending on where I start. That's how I work. So I'll probably try and work all the way to that point there from here. So, and if you don't do it in one stroke, I like to grip with my left hand, and that way I can move the scene to away or towards me. And then I just pull out more points just to fill in these surface boundaries defined by some of my sketch lines. I think that'll be a good spot to end that. So you can just end that by just letting go of the left trigger. If you pull one more time, you'll add another little row of CVs or control points at the end there. So that's that. See, this is another getting a different view on it. That worked pretty well. Let's move these points. And I kind of want that to fade out there, so I'm going to indicate that with that sketch line. And surfacing later, I can fill that in. And you can see up here, this didn't quite get there. So it looks pretty good. We'll change up this end a little. And we'll put that there. And that like that. Cool. So that's that. I think I'm going to do one big surface coming around like that. I'll probably end it here, maybe across there, and then I'll do one down like that. So let's start like this. And that's also good to kind of define the big surface there. So like that. Trying to keep my hands with a little bit of curvature on it because I want this to be a fairly positive surface. And as you kind of get here, the surface is going to start to splay out. So you just have to pay attention to both points where your hand is. So I just want to kind of come right across this point here so I can make a triangular surface in this area here and then start to come down like that. And these I'm just going to pull up and hide the edges. I'll probably do one more, or I'm going to add in a row right here just to help me get a little more in line with this headlight here. So that's not bad. You can also tell by the shadow that these curve lines project onto the surface if it's below it or not. So this one's a little bit like that. And you can always go and tune up those lines around its boundaries there. Maybe that needs to come a smidge more down. And just try and keep things even. But you can see when I added that it shot those points off, so you'll just have to go in and kind of manipulate those a bit. It's kind of like, it is NURBS geometry, but I do a lot of subdivision polygon modeling, so I kind of have that habit of keeping kind of loops in a row and lining up CVs to minimize bumps and stuff. So it's a good practice. Just that'll help you later on, just to keep these kind of clean. I'm not sure where the surfacing tools are going to go in this, but I personally would like to see some subdivision modeling because that seems the best for me, because you can kind of push and pull, and you can actually build maybe topology that comes off of here and branches off over there, so you can make everything one one continuous surface and get nicer blends. I don't really see myself, creating surfaces and projecting curves on and trimming and blending surfaces. I don't think this is a technical tool set right now. It's more of a concept development, early design phase tool, which is perfectly fine. It's fairly quick, so I'm more into figuring things out earlier on. So I spend more time making all of this, but all just the sketch curves. I think I spent about an hour and 40 minutes, and the surfaces maybe another hour. So you could, within 3 hours, you should be able to get a pretty good car made with a lot of detail figured out. Or you can do something super rough and quick. I've done some things. I've tried to do things in like half an hour, but my personality tends to slow me down when I try and think too much on things. And everybody's going to work differently. Um, so everyone will have their own techniques, and they all work. As long as you get the design done and you're able to figure out what you want to make using the tool, work however you want. Um, so just making some more surfaces. I like to put these 2 points close together to fill in like a corner like that. But I'm gonna add another row, I think, actually through here, just so I can get a little more curve on there. Oops. So just added that point just so I can hide this a little better. And then I'm just going to spread these out to help kind of keep this surface from getting a pinch. When things get close together, you can start to get, dips and stuff like that. So that's just kind of a good housekeeping while aligning some of these points. Kind of get them to be evenly spaced, especially at their boundaries. You're trying to connect all these different lines with different curvature. Some of them are these big sweeping circular forms, like around the wheel arch, and some are kind of sharp, tight lines. So it's a bit tricky. That's why I think the subdivision stuff could be useful in a scenario like that, because I can branch off little bits to fill that in. You could probably do it with if you don't use the precise mode, but I like to export NURBS geometry from here, so that's why I don't. I haven't actually played around with the tool too much, and I'm not sure what mode it is. When you come in here and turn that, I guess it's just non-precision, so you're turning precision on. You might be able to make some other types of surfaces like that. Okay, we're just gonna pull that down. That looks pretty good, I think. Trying to match this curvature here. And then again, like I did over here, just trying to hide that around there. They're not perfectly touching, but I think that's good. It gives the volume. It's letting me see that I can get a pretty smooth surface through here. Might just need to work a little harder. That's not too bad. Pretty good. And actually, one thing I should do is pull my image back in. I'm not sure where it went, just for my color reference. Looks like I lost audio here for a second. I think I was just describing how it's good to have reference images to use, especially when trying to break up your model. So that's green. I think this is all green down here. So we'll do that. If anybody has any requests or questions, just leave them in the comments. I try and read them every few days. I don't have too many videos up. I'm pretty new to doing all this YouTube video tutorial stuff, but I'm gonna try and do a few more videos and keep up with it. I think this tool is great, and it's nice to be involved with it so early on. I think it's got a lot of potential for kind of helping designers or helping make things in 3D while you're ideating, while you're thinking about it. It helps you understand the three dimensionality of your design as you're coming up with it. A lot of this stuff needed to be figured out just from that one sketch, and you can just kind of quickly block in curves or semi quickly block in curves and figure out some of the volumes that need to be made. Here's going to be a little triangular surface in here. Losing tracking. We're good. Oops. And you want to be careful when you're clicking. I always tend to move it slightly, but when you get back into editing, it should pop it back to the position it was in. Just be careful. I think the biggest thing with problem with creating things in VR now is that your muscle memory is not there to work in 3D space. Maybe clay sculptors, clay modelers might have a better knack for it because they're always, they always have their hands in space. But here you're not resting in them on anything, so you're just kind of free floating, and trying to stabilize your arms, while you're doing some of this stuff. So I think there's actually going to be a pocket back here. So I'm just going to draw. Oh, I'm just going to draw one curve here. I want to make sure my pressure's on. I think there's going to be something that comes around and connects to that there. Actually, it's going to connect to this back here. So I'm noticing this is a little negative. And we'll just bring that down there like that. So I think there's going to be a surface back there. That might be, yeah, that should be part of this gray piece. So we'll just make the green up until there. So it's nice to define your boundaries as you're, building things. So we'll just put this, this surface is going to fill in there. So I should be able to do that in one go. It's pretty square. That's one thing too, is it's nice to establish kind of square or four-sided surface patches. That'll help you here so you don't run into kind of pointed areas or kind of odd blends. That's a good practice, with any modeling and polygon modeling or traditional, NURBS modeling in CATIA or Alias. Obviously, NURBS modeling, you have trimming and stuff, so sometimes you're going to have odd looking patches, but it just helps to keep them square. There we go. Some more points. I think that should do it. Great. That looks good. I think I'm going to switch over to gray. Actually, we'll do this one in here. I think this area is still a bit muddy, but I'm just going to fill in muddy as in not figured out and hard to understand. So I'm just going to block this surface in and then turn this down there. Maybe I'll do one more and end it like that. Oops. Got a little flick up there. Actually, it looks like these are not black. They are. They might be. There we go. These different balls up here are different reflectivities. I think that's a cartoon shader, and that one's completely black. You can just see that surface change there. So I think I had all those to that color. And then I will make this green right here. Oops. And it's nice, it saves your latest color picks around the circle, so you can always just go back to them. So we'll just go to this green here, make this kind of splitter shape. I'm thinking I might actually make this green because I added that one down the body side there under the rocker. That's probably going to be gray. This one here, because I think the whole rest of the body is going to be green, so that might not might not look good graphically. So let's actually just come up with a gray. We'll just choose that one. Oops. So if you find where your colors are kind of behind something, if you keep pulling forward, it'll move the whole thing in space, or the whole color wheel towards you or further away, and then you'll just have to pick your color from there. So we'll just choose that one. These actually look a little low. Not bad. I think we'll do a light gray like that, and that'll be on this rocker there. Now I can start doing it here. Oh, I forgot that one green surface here. So it's going to twist a little as it comes to that, but that should be okay. I'll do the headlight graphics later. I don't really have an idea of what I want to do with that. But that's okay because I could just indicate the lens. I think I'll do one there, one there. I like to put two closer together just so I can kind of get a little bit of a round there. Hide this edges like that. Not bad. I notice as I'm editing my videos, I say not bad a lot, so I apologize if that's annoying. But now I know about it, so I'll try harder to not say it. Cool. So that's that. I think I'll do this whole area as one, and then I can do all these as kind of individual. Actually, this as another one, this kind of loop, and then yeah, I should be able to get most of that all in square surfaces. So this, I'll just pull it just a slight bit underneath this one, so I have some flexibility to move that around. Looks like this curve needs to come up just a little. This probably wouldn't have a little radius in there. It looks like a hard color break. Maybe there's a part line, but I think it's a sketch line, so it's okay. And that works. So we're nearing the end of part 4. You can watch the rest of the surfacing segment in part 5. Thanks for watching. Enjoy.